Once upon a time, a man named Rahul walked up a winding path to seek the wisdom of a Buddhist monk. His shoulders slumped with the weight of the world, his steps dragging like a person who had long lost hope. As he reached the monastery, he knocked gently on the door, seeking the sage's counsel. "Master," Rahul began, his voice filled with frustration, "I can't find peace. I feel like I'm constantly struggling, trying to get ahead, but life keeps knocking me back. I work harder and harder, but nothing seems to be enough. I don't know what to do anymore." The monk, who had spent years meditating on the nature of human suffering, listened patiently. "Come sit with me," he invited, his calm voice like a gentle breeze. Rahul sat beside the monk, and after a long pause, the monk spoke. "My friend, what do you think is the most important element in the growth of a plant?" Rahul looked at the monk, slightly confused. "Water?" he guessed. The monk smiled. "Yes, water. But what else?" Rahul thought for a moment. "Sunlight," he replied. "Correct," the monk said, nodding. "But there's another thing that you may not consider." Rahul was silent, waiting for the monk to continue. The monk looked at him with deep wisdom in his eyes. "Time." "Time?" Rahul asked, his curiosity piqued. "But isn't that just something we wait for? What's so special about it?" The monk gently placed his hand on Rahul's shoulder. "Time is not something that just passes by. It is an essential element in growth. You see, if you water a plant too much, or if you expose it to too much sunlight too quickly, it will wither. Similarly, in life, if you rush things, if you try to force progress, you'll burn out. Everything in nature grows at its own pace, and so should you." Rahul was silent for a moment, reflecting on the monk's words. The monk continued, "Patience is the soil in which your success will grow. The same way a tree takes years to grow tall and strong, you too must give yourself time. Rushing ahead, trying to accomplish everything in a day or a week, will not only leave you feeling exhausted, but will also prevent you from gaining the wisdom that comes with experience. Patience and self-control are the roots of true growth. Without them, we are like the plant that is overwatered, struggling to survive." Rahul looked down, his mind racing. "But Master, what do I do when I feel like I'm losing time? What if I'm not achieving my goals fast enough?" The monk smiled gently, his voice calm as a still lake. "That's the very challenge, my friend. You see, time is a valuable resource, but rushing through it, obsessing over the clock, only causes more frustration. Instead, focus on what you can do today. Take one small step at a time, knowing that each step is important, even if it feels small." Rahul thought about this, remembering all the moments when he had tried to rush through life, trying to outpace time itself. But the more he thought, the more he realized that true success, the kind that lasts, comes from steady progress. "Master, I've been so focused on the end goal that I've lost sight of the small victories along the way. I've been impatient with myself, trying to do everything all at once. How can I learn to be patient?" The monk's eyes softened. "Patience is a skill, just like any other, and like any skill, it can be developed over time. But the first step is awareness. Become aware of when you're rushing, when you're allowing impatience to control you. Then take a deep breath. Slow down. Give yourself permission to take things one step at a time. Every task you complete, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal." Rahul took a deep breath, trying to understand the monk's words. "But, Master," he said slowly, "what about all the obstacles that come up along the way? What if I face setbacks, or people stand in my way?" The monk nodded, acknowledging Rahul's concern. "Ah, obstacles. They are a part of life, just as much as the sunrise and sunset. Setbacks are not punishments, nor are they signs that you are failing. They are simply part of the process. A tree does not grow straight without obstacles. The wind, the rain, even the animals that nibble at its leaves, they all shape the tree into something stronger. Similarly, obstacles will test your character, but the way you respond to them is what matters." Rahul listened intently. The monk continued, "The key is self-control. In moments of adversity, it's easy to let frustration take over. It's easy to lash out, to quit, or to rush through the process. But true strength lies in remaining calm, in being patient with yourself and with the situation. Self-control is not about suppressing your emotions. It's about not letting them control you." Rahul's eyes widened as he began to grasp the depth of the monk's teachings. "So, I shouldn't let my impatience or frustration define me?" The monk smiled knowingly. "Exactly. Your emotions are natural, but you do not have to act on every emotion that arises. In fact, learning to pause, reflect, and choose your response is one of the most powerful tools you can possess." For the first time in a long time, Rahul felt a sense of calm settle over him. He realized that he had been chasing after success, only to burn out along the way. He had been so focused on the destination that he forgot to enjoy the journey. The monk, sensing Rahul's shift in understanding, spoke again. "Let me leave you with this thought. Success is not just about reaching your goals. It's about how you grow along the way. And growth requires time, patience, and self-control." Rahul stood up, his heart lighter than when he had first arrived. "Thank you, Master. I now see that I've been rushing through life, trying to achieve everything at once. I will work on being patient, taking things one step at a time, and learning to grow steadily." The monk smiled as he watched Rahul walk away, the man now filled with a sense of peace. As he walked down the path, Rahul couldn't help but smile to himself. He knew that the road ahead would still be full of challenges, but now he understood that the most important thing was not to rush through life, but to take it one step at a time, with patience and self-control. A few years ago, a woman named Priya stood in front of a busy intersection in the heart of the city, her heart pounding in her chest. She was at a crossroads in her life, one that was marked by uncertainty and fear. Everything felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Her career, her relationships, and her ambitions all seemed like they were crumbling one piece at a time. She felt like she was desperately trying to hold on to everything, but the tighter she clung to it, the more everything seemed to slip away. Priya stood there, frozen, staring at the chaos around her. She thought about the career she had poured her soul into for the past decade, only to see it fall apart in the span of a few months. She thought about the relationship she had tried so hard to nurture, but ultimately couldn't keep together. Most of all, she thought about the future that seemed so out of her control, a future that was drifting further away with each passing day. In that moment, Priya remembered a conversation she had once had with an older man on a park bench. He had been an old friend of her father's, someone who had lived through decades of change, hardship, and joy. She had sat next to him and, without thinking, spilled out her worries about everything that was falling apart in her life. The old man had listened quietly, his eyes twinkling with a mixture of sadness and wisdom. When she finished, he had said, "My dear, you're trying to hold on to something that was never yours to begin with. You see, life is like the river. It flows, it moves, it changes course, and it carries us along with it. We can resist it, but we can never stop the flow. All we can do is learn to float." Those words had echoed in Priya's mind ever since. But at that moment, they finally began to make sense. Acceptance, she realized, wasn't about giving up. It was about surrendering to the flow of life. It wasn't about resignation. It was about trust. Trust in the unknown. Trust that even when things fall apart, they might be falling into place. And more than anything, it was about understanding that not everything was hers to control. The moment Priya realized this, she took a deep breath, letting go of the weight that had been holding her down. For the first time in a long time, she felt lighter, like a burden had been lifted off her shoulders. Acceptance wasn't something that could be forced. It wasn't an easy choice to make. In fact, it was the hardest thing she had ever done. But Priya was beginning to understand that holding on to things, whether they were people, outcomes, or situations, was what was truly keeping her trapped. It was in her attempt to control everything that she had lost her peace. Acceptance is a quiet kind of wisdom, one that comes when we stop fighting the present moment. It's the wisdom of letting go of our rigid expectations, of releasing the need for certainty, and instead learning to live with what is. It's the moment you realize that you can't change the past, and you can't predict the future. You are, however, in full control of how you respond to the present. This is where the power lies, in the decision to accept things as they are, to stop fighting against them, and to trust that you will find your way, even when the path is unclear. Acceptance is the foundation for peace. Without it, we are forever trapped in the cycle of what-ifs, should-haves, and if-onlys. But when we learn to accept, when we let go of our need for control and certainty, we open ourselves up to a new world, a world where things unfold in their own time, where we can be present in our lives instead of constantly fighting against them. Priya thought back to that park bench moment, to the old man's words about the river, and she realized that life, like the river, would always move forward, whether she was ready or not. The more she resisted the flow, the more she was thrown about by the current. But the moment she let go, when she relaxed into the river, she could float, even in the midst of chaos. As she stood at the intersection, the world still felt uncertain, but she no longer felt like a victim. Priya understood that the only way to move forward was to let go of her attachment to what she thought should happen and embrace what was happening instead. She no longer needed to control everything. She didn't need to have all the answers. All she needed to do was trust the process. Acceptance didn't mean resignation. It didn't mean that Priya was giving up on her dreams or abandoning her goals. On the contrary, it meant that she could now move forward with a sense of peace and clarity. By accepting what she couldn't change, she made space for the things she could. In that moment, Priya realized that she had been holding on to expectations of how her career should have turned out, of how her relationships should have unfolded, of what her life should look like. But life wasn't a neat, carefully planned journey. It was messy. It was unpredictable. And that was okay. In fact, it was beautiful. Priya's journey of letting go wasn't an overnight transformation. It wasn't as simple as saying, I accept this, and moving on. It was a process. It took time. But the more she practiced acceptance, the more she realized that it wasn't about eliminating the struggle. It was about learning how to flow with it. Letting go also meant releasing the grip on her identity, the need to define herself by her successes, her failures, or the way others saw her. She was no longer bound by the stories she had told herself. Instead, she was free to simply be. As Priya moved forward from the intersection, she felt a new sense of possibility in the air. Her life wasn't perfect, but she wasn't holding on to a picture-perfect image anymore. She was embracing the messy, beautiful, unpredictable flow of life. And in that acceptance, she found peace. And that peace, Priya realized, was where true freedom lay.